Welcome to the Dogs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Renneker, Zach Kopp, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
Hey, what's up, and welcome to a very special live episode of the Dogs. As you can see, we have a very special guest in the studio tonight. Before we get into everything, I want to remind you guys to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. If you haven't already, you're watching tonight, make sure you like and subscribe. Remember to tap the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. You can also find us on Apple, Spotify, and Google if you prefer to just listen. Lastly, if you're looking for more content, head to jointhedogs.com to become an official Dog Pack member on our Patreon page. You get episodes early. You get an extra episode every week. We have fantasy leagues going on, game day threads. There's a giant group text that goes on where I get hundreds of text messages a day. I went to a game with a Patreon member this past Thursday. It's just basically been an all-around good thing for everybody involved. So make sure you check that out. Jointhedogs.com to become an official Dog Pack member. We're very excited to have Barry Shuck from dogsbynature.com all the way up from Florida just to come to the studio. I think he came just for this. No, I'm just joking. But no, we're really excited to have Barry. If you guys have been listening, you guys know that he's been a friend of the show for a while now. And we're really excited to have you in the studio today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's very gracious for y'all to invite me here. And I didn't come for the show. I came for the snow. I heard it snows up here.
It does sometimes, but you don't want to be here for that. Trust me.
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you to Zach for kind of wallering out this seat. This cushion's real comfy.
He's been putting on weight the last 10 years just for this night. So obviously, we got a big game this week. I don't want to call it a must win, but it kind of feels like that heading into this game against the Steelers. We now know that Baker's going to start. We know that Chubb's going to play. We're pretty healthy with the exception of Hunt. So we're just going to dive right into this. These are going to be Barry's keys to victory for our game against the Steelers on Sunday. So what do you think some of the keys are?
Well, the Browns are a running team. The Browns are number one in the league in rushing. They have the most total yardage in rushing. They average 5.3 yards a carry. They also are number one in categories like running plays of 20 yards or more. They have 9 of those, and it's number one. So they're going to run. However, Pittsburgh's got a solution for that. They're the number 5 rushing defense. So we're going to see a pound the ball consistently. But Steelers have got horses up front with their defensive front, and their linebackers are speedy. So that's going to be kind of a war of attrition right there.
Yeah, for everybody who sees me like jumping around and stuff, it's just because I forgot to plug my headphones in. So bear with me.
That's where you get all those texts from.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think we saw teams this year have success against the Steelers on the ground. I know they beat Buffalo week 1, but coming out of the half, Buffalo started to run the ball against them, and that's not even really what they're known for. And then we saw against Seattle a couple of weeks ago, second half, Alex Collins kind of ran all over them in the second half. TJ Watt ended up taking over that game, so they won that one too. But I think running, especially with a hurt Baker, the run's kind of important to our team anyways, but I feel like this week it's got even more importance on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the passing game with the Browns is just suspect. You look at the top 75, top 100 in receivers, we don't have any. We have David Njoku, number 83. So our top receiver is a tight end. Our second is OBJ. Our third is Kareem Hunt. Those are Kareem Hunt's like 123rd receiver. So we've got all these receivers. I don't understand, and maybe you can enlighten me. I don't understand why we're not using DPJ more. And where has Rashad Higgins been?
I agree with that. I did see for Sunday, DPJ is not even going to play. They already ruled him out for groin.
Bummer.
So that's another guy that's banged up. But Higgins is crazy. Like for a guy that's almost like Baker's comfort zone receiver.
All last year.
He was always that guy that was like third down. He was always the one. He was always the one for the first down, the safe receiver. I don't know what's going on.
I mean, he was the one who stepped up last year.
Yeah.
OBJ went down and
key third downs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, at dogsbynature.com, we sent him out for sandwiches and he never came back.
I think the entire downfield passing game this year has left a ton to be desired.
True that.
We actually talked about this on the last episode. Like I think I'm the one who brought up that David Njoku is our leading receiver, and he doesn't even have 300 yards.
Right.
So what we're at, our number one receiving threats averaging less than 50 yards a game. That's not going to get it done. And I understand that we're a run first approach, but at the same, this is modern day NFL. We got to be able to throw the ball downfield some. I think it was the Ravens like 2 years ago were the number one rushing team in the league, but Lamar still led the league in touchdown passes.
Absolutely. And you look at OBJ, he doesn't have 300 yards and he has 0 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's very concerning. I don't know what they're going to have to do to find a receiver. And we haven't been using our tight ends hardly ever. Austin Hooper, they're paying him $8 million this year. And how many receptions does he have? Every time I see him, he's blocking.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think it helps either. Like our receiver core has been super banged up. Jarvis was out for a lot of games. OBJ missed 2 games. So, I mean, it'd be nice if we could get healthy, both of those guys healthy. Jarvis looked good, from what I saw, but
it was definitely nice having him back.
Absolutely.
There was a difference on the offense with Jarvis out there.
And the young guys really haven't stepped up. Schwartz looks like if you hit him too hard, he's going to break.
Or even come close to hitting him.
Even come close to hitting him. But he leads the Browns in yards per catch at a little over 21 yards per catch. So he's at least doing that. But I expected to see him more on some jet sweeps, some little receiver screens out in the flats where they'd have somebody blocking for him. And even that, -1 3-yard gain. He's just not doing that. He's got top end speed.
I know we ran an end around for him against Denver, and it looked like it was wide open, and he got tackled from behind almost. And I thought this guy was supposed to be fast.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he looks kind of lost. I'm not giving up on him for his career. Obviously, he's a 3rd-round rookie, and we knew he was going to be kind of a project. But to me, he just seems like he's not ready. This year isn't the year that we're going to get what we need to get out of him.
Yeah, I think any receiver, though, I think you can come in running back. I think you can come in tight end and play right away. But wide receiver, offensive line, quarterback, that needs seasoning. There's a lot more plays, and the defenses disguise themselves better and more in the NFL. And there's more guys, and the speed is greater there. So, but and just like Demetric Felton, he hasn't played wide receiver much either. He did a lot in preseason, but I've only seen him 6-7 times at the wide receiver position. I cover the Senior Bowl every year, and that's all he was at the Senior Bowl was with the wide receiver group. I didn't even know he was a running back. He had a running back's number, but he was with the wide receiver group. And then when he was drafted, I said, why did they draft another receiver? So he's not getting touches. By the way, I think he's like number 2 in the league in punt returns average, Felton. So, he's not breaking anything.
But he's every time he touches the ball in a punt return, though, it seems like he makes the first guy miss.
True.
And gets some kind of positive return for us. I was surprised he wasn't more involved in the game plan against Denver with Chubb and Hunt both being out. I was really surprised about that. I'd like to get him more touches. I think now that Jarvis is back and we have Odell's back playing, I think you're going to see some of these guys.
Yeah, and DPJ last year at punt return, it was just something about him. He looked stiff, and I just thought he was going to fumble at any minute.
No.
So it's good to have a guy that had college experience at punt returning and that can take the ball and have some sizable gains. Number 2 in the league. Can't complain with that. He's not a Josh Cribbs.
No, nobody is, though. Not many people. So obviously the first key of the game, like Barry said, was running the ball. You got another key?
I do. I think the storyline for the game, though, is going to be if the Steelers cannot run the ball. They're 31st in the league in rushing. Najee Harris is a stud. He's an absolute stud. I'd love to have him on our team. But they can't run the ball, so they're going to have to pass the ball. So if they're going to pass the ball, you either have to defend it or you have to collapse the pocket. You agree with me?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
We talked about it, too. I mean, I feel like every rushing yard that Najee's gotten this year, he's gotten it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Nothing's opening up for him. That offensive line is
they got
just
three new starters this year.
Yeah, young.
Yeah,
young rookie
guys.
or young guys, yeah.
And all the season guys, well, one's on the Ravens.
Yep.
The guy that starts with the V that was in the service. Pouncey retired. So They can't run the ball, so they're going to have to throw it. We got a good defensive line. We've got some good pass rushers, so we're going to have to collapse that box. So I think that's going to be the storyline of the game. They are 25th in passing, and we're 22nd against the pass. That's borderline right there. If we can hold them and get them out, but I think another key of the game is on our third downs. We're horrible at third downs on offense. Why can't we convert a third down?
I've been screaming this. You should have been up here instead of Zach all year. I've been screaming that about our defense and about our offense all season. Our third down efficiency on both sides of the ball has been bad, which is crazy because I feel like last year, at least offensively, we were pretty good on third down and in the red zone, and both of those have gone backwards this year. I forgot to mention this in the last episode, but I think one of the keys to the game for the Browns defensively is going to be tackling. They don't throw deep. Everything's within 3 to 7 yards of the line of scrimmage. Don't let Deontay Johnson turn a 3-yard catch into a 40-yard gain. I think keep everything in front of you, come up and make a tackle, make them go 12, 13 plays. I don't think they can do that consistently all game.
Johnson's 28th in the league in passing offense. You know who our leading tackler is? JOK. 128th in the league in tackling. So we don't have that Joe Schubert type top 5 tackler that Schubert missed a lot of tackles, but he made a lot of tackles too. So we just don't have those tackling machine in it, and it's hit or miss. Malcolm Smith will have a good game at tackling. Last week it was Mac Wilson had a great first half in tackling on defense, but we just don't have that stud guy, although Anthony Walker seems to want to be, but he's back in coverage quite a bit.
Now, what I guess we're going to get into like what you think of this season so far, so I'll save my question for that. Any other keys you think we need to focus on for this game? What do you think offensively we need to do?
Run the ball.
Okay.
I would like to see them use the tight ends more in the passing game, but we're just going to run it down their throats, and we're going to run it a lot. Now that Dearness Johnson has said, hey, I'm tired of sitting on the bench. They've got opportunities there. He's not a good pass receiver, but you can see he can run. Chubb is Chubb. I wouldn't never get rid of Chubb. I'd let my daughters date his sons and grandsons. They can all be part of the family.
What do you think the full playbook's available, or do you think they're going to scale it back and try to play safe with Baker, knowing that he's got the injury?
Well, I don't know what the doctors have said, but I think they're going to put him on a short leash. And I even think Stefanski's going to look at it as first half, second half, kind of like Nick Saban did in the NFC, the national championship with Tua
and
Hurts. Where Hurts struggled up into it, and he threw Tua in. I think that's going to be the first half. I think he'll give him a half, and because they're good at making halftime adjustments, I think. And the second half, if Casey Keenum can do better, because you can see he can move the ball, and I won't say that he's going to win the game, but he's going to manage the game. I don't think he's going to lose the game for you.
Right, exactly.
No turnovers. That's new. And last year, Baker didn't have a whole lot of turnovers. First half he did, but then he quit throwing the ball away. But all these fumbles, where did that come from?
I think he's holding the ball a long time.
I think the line is beat up.
It's beat up, and I feel like that injury too. Like I watching him play, it's like he's got in the back of his mind that if I get hit here, that could be it. Like he knows that injury's right there on the cusp.
I'll say this though, we keep talking about the line being beat up and stuff, but I saw the Browns are the number 1 team in pressure rate and pass protection win percentage. So it's not on the line. I think he's holding the ball way too long. He's not trusting his eyes, and I think he's holding onto the ball, double clutching, and he has the slowest. I think I read this was a couple weeks ago. He has the slowest time to get rid of the ball in the league,
and that's a league with Justin Fields in it too. So
yeah.
I don't know what you guys think, and then anybody watching right now, just drop it in the chat. Kind of chime in here. Do you think that Baker should play this game, or should he sit another one out and just continue to get healthy, let Case come in and just from start to finish manage this game and let the run game kind of do what we did against Denver?
Let me ask you this. Does he need surgery on his shoulder?
Yes.
If he ever wants it to be 100%. I have a torn labrum in my hip right now.
Okay.
And I've had it for a couple of years, and it's never going to be better unless I get surgery. So it's not my shoulder, but I understand like the pain and it's the discomfort. And if I want it to be fixed, I have to get surgery. So
but you're not running to or from anything.
From Big Ben. Yeah, exactly. So I'm just living with it. If he ever wants it to be 100% healthy, surgery is the only option.
If he had surgery, would he be out till the playoffs or for the year?
Out for the year.
Out for
I'm
the
pretty
year.
sure that's what I read.
Yeah.
So we've got Andrew Jackson says sit out and get healthy. Will DeGoat says he should play his football. He can get hurt any player anytime.
I agree with Will the Goat. Like, here's the thing is you have medical staff, you have team doctors.
Right.
If they're clearing him to play, I obviously, and I don't know this. I don't work with the team or anything like that, but I guarantee you Baker said, hey, he's going to go out there whether he can play or not. I feel like he's just like that kind of guy. I guarantee the Thursday night game, he didn't want to sit out.
No.
That was probably hey, you're not going to play. You're going to rest up. I would love for Baker to go out and just have a phenomenal game. I need that game.
But the second half of the Cardinals game, he was just pedestrian.
Oh,
he got hurt in
bad.
the first half, and they said, well, is he going to stay? Keenum even got up and was starting to warm up, right?
Yep.
That's when they should have put Keenum in and taken Baker out, because what he did is he went to it and said, no, I don't want to go to bed.
Right.
And
then they forced him back in there and said, hey, no, hold on. We're going to take a look at this.
Exactly. So, they do have doctors, and the doctors know best, but I think it's going to be a short leash this game. And I think every game is going to be a short leash.
I know everybody kind of looks at Baker with like rosy, glossy eyes because he's our quarterback, but I think a big part of him wanting to play is if he sits this game and we go beat the Steelers.
Yeah.
And then he comes back and we lose to the Bengals, or every game we win without him, his value is dropping.
Yeah, but put some respect on that guy's name, man. Like the last time he played that team that we're playing Sunday, it was in the playoffs and we won.
I'd say the last 2 times he's played that team has been
I agree.
Very good.
But what I'm saying is every game we win without Baker in a contract year,
trust me, I completely agree with you on that.
He's losing value, and he's not an idiot. He knows that.
Yeah.
His money is going down every game we win without him. Why would we pay him big money if career journeyman Case Keenum can win games with us?
So of course he wants to be on the field.
Exactly. I would like to think Baker wouldn't put the team in a bad position just because he's trying to get paid. I don't think he's that kind of player. So I think if he's out there, I do think if he's going to play, we can't use, if he comes out and doesn't play well, the injury cannot be an excuse. If he's in there, he's got to be held to the standard of he's playing, he's got to play well.
I'm pretty sure he can live off of those Progressive commercials.
Yes.
I think so too.
And Hulu.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So
go ahead, Blake. Go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
I got one key point I think that is going to be a big factor, or could be a big factor for Sunday. So Denzel Ward's going to be out. So Greedy Williams, it's going to be another step up kind of game.
Greedy he's showed
that
out this year.
Is that a minus?
Yeah, I
right.
don't know.
No, I'm not saying it's a minus, but I think that it's going to be a big point of the game. I mean, our secondary can be suspect. Depending on the game that you go to, I guess. You know,
I feel like still, like if you're going to attack a corner, you're going to attack Newsome.
True.
From Pittsburgh side. I mean, over Greedy. I'm not saying you wouldn't go Greedy's way, but I'm just saying if you're going to pick one to pick on, it's probably going to be Greg Newsome, because Greedy's played well this year, like you said, Barry.
He's been nice in a step in.
If you took all the safeties and all the cornerbacks and say who is playing the best, it'd either be Troy Hill or Greedy Williams. You'd have to pick one of those two.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It was good for Greedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good for Greedy, because people were really starting to bail on him.
Yeah, we kind of dogged on him too in the preseason a little bit. Well, before the preseason, I guess.
I won't say we weren't dogging on him. We were just like, you got to play or you got to go.
Yeah, get healthy, please. Like,
at some point, you needed to play, and good for him. He's come in, he's played really well,
and he's learned how to tackle.
Yeah. Yes. He's been actually a very good tackler for us this year. I think this is a game for the Browns as an organization where like we have to win. We're kind of at a turning point in this season where we can go to 5-3 and go into that Bengals game next week with a chance to like tie up the division or only be one game out, or we can lose this game, go to 500, and then we got to go play the leading division Bengals next week. And it's one of those things where we should beat the Steelers this week. We're at home. We're pretty much healthy now. The Steelers are known around the league as not being that good this year. 2 of their 3 wins are against very bad football teams.
If you've watched any Pittsburgh Steelers game for any amount of time, you know they're not a good team this year.
Correct.
Yeah, so horrible offensive line.
It's so
horrible.
So there's essentially no excuse to not win this football game. This is, in my eyes, we have to win this football game.
Well, we have had other games, the Chargers the Chiefs that we should have won. And because of things, if the hammer doesn't drop a ball,
Yeah.
Chubb
doesn't fumble.
The Chargers, does anybody think that the Browns I don't think the Chargers won that game. I think the Browns lost it.
100%.
So there's 2 wins. So anything is possible against the Steelers. No matter, we had a 22-10 lead on the Chiefs.
Yep.
So what kind of team is this? What kind of defense is this?
Well, and you see what the Chiefs have not been able to do since then. So it's like, what was wrong with our defense? Because
teams are shutting them down.
Yeah.
And all I heard after week 1 when I complained about the defense was how I was being too critical. It's the Chiefs, blah, blah, blah. Statistically speaking, they're still one of the highest scoring offenses in the league or whatever. But when they're playing good teams, they're not, it's not just moving the ball on air like it was against us. They're having to work for it.
That's fair.
Awesome. Any more keys?
No, none that I can think of.
Okay, so we will move on. Those were Barry's keys to victory with a little bit of us sprinkled in here. So now we want to move into some general takeaways, Barry's general takeaways from the first 7 games of the season. Before we get into that, I forgot to mention we have a special guest in studio today. Producer Kyle in the house. Kyle. I don't know. He's got a headset on. You got a mic on?
No,
he doesn't have a mic on this time, but it's good to see Kyle in here today. He steps in and helps us out when we have big things going on. I think he's going to be in here with us again on Monday because Josh is going to be out of town.
I will not be here.
So it's good to have PK in the house.
That's right.
So anyways, general takeaways from the first 7 games of the season. What's your take on the Browns right now?
I think the defense has just played suspect. I thought we were going to go into the season we did with 9 new starters, and we thought, oh, this is going to be a great defense. Our linebacker situation is improved. Our safeties are solved. Delpit, Harrison, we've completely solved that. And then when we drafted Newsome, Ward on one side, Newsom or Greedy on the other side, and the fact that Joe Woods plays a lot of 4-2-5, so there's going to be 5 defensive backs. Well, 3 of them can be linebackers. 3 of them could be safety, excuse me. So if we got all these healthy safeties, but the defensive backfield has just been atrocious this year. Grant Delpit, he can't tackle his grandma. There's been 2 games, the Chargers won, where all you have to do is do a head bob to him, and he'll take it 10 out of 10 times, unless he's just straight on. He's had 2 games where he let a guy score from the 5. And I think he's a real big disappointment. Ronnie Harrison is steady at times. John Johnson is a roller coaster at times. I think our safeties is our problem area. And ever since we traded Jabril Peppers, we've tried to solve that with new guys every year. And so far, it just hasn't happened.
Well, I'm probably going to go where Blake was just thinking. Is it the players' fault? Because I look at the players on the roster and the players on the field, and it's like, these are not untalented guys. These are very good players that we have in that safety room.
I think we're playing players out of position. I don't think we're utilizing them to their strengths at all. I think we have them playing out of position. Also, I've used this example before. Every player that comes and plays Joe Wood's system regresses. Andrew Sendejo and Kevin Johnson last year were players that we thought were going to be good, solid pickups for the defense. And Sendejo was the laughing stock of the league. And then he leaves. He's playing for Indianapolis this year, and he's not the laughing stock of the league anymore.
He's starting.
He's starting for a team that is starting to really pick it up. So and then John Johnson was considered by pretty much everybody around the NFL, not just Browns people, as maybe the best free agent acquisition any team made this year.
Defensive quarterback.
Yep. And he looks lost at times.
Yeah.
And Ronnie Harrison, in my opinion, he's been okay, but I expected him to be better this year. Delpit, like you said, is hit or miss. I don't like our philosophy. I don't like what we're trying to do because it's just not working. We blitz when we shouldn't blitz. 3rd and long, we never blitz. Quarterbacks have 10 seconds to just sit and pick apart our soft zone.
You're playing cover 3, which allows empty spaces in the middle. You take the Cardinals game. The Cardinals got down to the 17-yard line. I think it was 2nd down. DeAndre Hopkins, we have to agree, maybe top 3 receiver in the league.
Absolutely.
He goes down. Denzel Ward has him. Denzel Ward lets him go deep. he never made a move. He just did a down and in towards the post, and he just went back there and stood.
Yeah.
Wide open.
And Kyler Murray found him, and they showed that 3 times, and Hopkins just stood there like, where is everybody? And
It
when
was
they,
the weirdest
and
catch.
it was the weirdest catch. And when they panned out, you saw over in the left side of the defensive backfield, John Johnson standing there covering nobody. So you, as a cornerback, you let your guy go to the deep box, and there's nobody there to pick him up.
Yeah, I don't get, where do you stand? Do you think we need to dial up more pressure? Because I know every defense in the league wants to be able to just get pressure with 4. Ideally, in a perfect world, that's what you want to do. But if that's not happening, don't you think you got to create some pressure?
Yeah, if you look at our defensive front 4, the team leader is Myles Garrett. He's got 9.5 sacks. Jadeveon Clowney's got 3.5 sacks. The rest of the team doesn't even have 3.5 sacks. Okay. Then you've got categories like pressures. Myles Garrett has 29 pressures and Jadeveon Clowney has 18 pressures. The rest of the team, the rest of the offense, all the subs, Tack McKinley, the defensive tackles don't even come close to 18. Hurries. Myles Garrett has 10 hurries, and Jadeveon Clowney has 8. Well, those 3 categories, hurries, pressures, sacks, I understand quarterback hits, but those 3 is the pressure that's being applied to the quarterback before he has to abandon the quarterback or throw the ball too early. We only have 2 guys that are doing that. The other 2 are just not putting pressure on the quarterback at all. So if Malik McDowell, which Malik McDowell could make the Pro Bowl this year. I think on the defense, he's the only one playing on a Pro Bowl caliber to me. Myles Garrett could be on the outside looking in. But if you've only got 2 guys that are putting, and that's the bulk of your pass pressure, then you've got, that forces you to send a 5th guy. So, and if you're not playing the 4-3, if you're playing 5 defensive backs, that means a safety or cornerback. And I think against the Steelers, they're going to throw because they can't run. You're going to have to send a 5th guy, and you're going to have to send them frequently on that.
I agree too. And why would you not do it this game against a quarterback who, honestly, I might move better than him, and I don't move well.
And you got hip problems.
Yeah, I got hip problems and knee problems and other problems. I don't move well. And Big Ben looks slow. He just looks immobile.
And his arm doesn't look like a cannon like he's always been.
No, move him off of his spot, and you got a great chance. I think we need to manufacture some pressure, because this getting pressure with 4 guys and then just letting them sit back and pick us apart, it's not getting it done. It doesn't matter the down and distance. 3rd and 20 might as well be 3rd and 2.
Right.
It's crazy to me.
Right. After every game, I do a column called Brownies and Frownies. I actually take 2 pages of notes. I write down certain statistics. In my second page, I've got by quarter, and I make notes about what happened and what time it happened and what down and distance and who was involved in it. And the 3rd down conversions for other teams, usually Brownie is good, Frownie is bad. And then I do what called milk bones, and that's some good, some bad in the same game. But the 3rd down conversions for other teams usually ends up in my Frownies. The 3rd down conversions for our team usually ends up. I tell you another thing that ends up there is, do you realize we're 4th in the league in penalties?
Yeah, that's bad.
Crazy.
A lot of pre-snap penalties.
A lot of pre-snap, a lot of PIs.
So we had somebody question. You said McDowell would make the Pro Bowl over Myles, and he's questioning that.
No, I didn't say over Myles.
Okay.
I said Malik McDowell is playing on a Pro Bowl level at this point, but I think Myles is on the fringe, looking into that Pro Bowl nod.
Yeah.
He's got 9.5 sacks.
I see what you're saying, though. Just because he has 9.5 sacks doesn't mean he's playing at a Pro Bowl level the whole game.
And there's some games he's lights out, and there's some games you never hear his name on the television.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not instead of. I'm just saying, if I was to pick somebody right now to make the Pro Bowl, you could pick one guy on the defense. It'd be Malik McDowell for me. You can't run against him. There have been teams like the Cardinals. The Cardinals just quit running.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the third quarter, they just quit running.
Yeah.
They couldn't get past Jackson and McDowell. And he puts decent pass rush, but he is a run stopping machine. And honestly, Jadeveon Clowney's the same thing. We didn't sign him to be a pass rusher. He's always been known for his run stoppage, and he's doing that as well. Did that clarify it?
I think so. Just a lot of people in chat saying that Miles leads the league in sacks, so they think he's a shoo-in. But I see where you're coming. You need more than just sack numbers from that guy.
Yeah, and he is putting it there. If he's got all the hurries, he's got all the pressures.
Okay.
But right now, if I was to pick one defensive guy, me personally, I would pick Malik McDowell to go to the Pro Bowl. Miles will probably make it. Maybe Malik McDowell will make it. Maybe Anthony Walker will make it. Maybe we'll only get one.
Okay.
I do know this: the defense, I think, is a disappointment. I think it's inconsistent. But I think I found a common denominator about why that is. You look at the games that we had the most problems was the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Cardinals. Okay. Against the Vikings and the Bears, we played lights out. We played pretty good against Denver. But against those three teams, the common denominator is an excellent quarterback.
Yep.
An excellent quarterback that has precision throwing and that can scramble and run good.
Well, then you would have to throw the first half of the Texans game in there too, because Tyrod Taylor was doing exactly that as well.
Until he got hurt.
Right. That's why the first half. And then the second half, it was a different story. But we've said on the show, like, if he plays that second half of that game,
I don't know.
We were not playing very well.
I don't know that we win that
Yeah,
game.
I don't know.
Andrew Jackson wants to know if the common denominator is Joe Woods.
Oh, that could be too. That could be too.
Okay, so some more things in this first 7 games. We've actually talked about this a lot, especially in the last couple weeks. How do you grade Baker so far this year?
C minus.
Okay, so based on that C minus, season ends today. Would you extend him?
No, I think what I would do is I would try to franchise him and see what he does next year, because he's had some good seasons and some good games. You take like last year, the first half until OBJ got hurt, I question whether we should even keep him beyond last year. But the second half of the season, he was lights out. Once he quit throwing interceptions, he had a good season. He was now, I think a really good question is, if you play fantasy, okay,
Yep.
is he a starting quarterback in your league?
If it's a 2 quarterback, yes.
Okay,
No,
but let's say it's a 12.
Trust me,
Let's say it's a 10 or a 12 team league.
Okay.
And everybody has a starting quarterback. Of course, everybody's got a quarterback that starts for somebody on their bench.
Yep.
As you know, does he start for any team in your league?
Single quarterback leagues, I think he's probably on the waiver wire in most of them.
Yeah,
Probably.
or he's on
At
somebody's bench.
Correct.
Right.
But he might be on the waiver wire. That's the kind of season he's having.
So the thing I brought up on the last episode, and then I even did some more research once the episodes came out, because people were all over me on YouTube. I try not to read the comments because actually I read them all the time. But I started pulling up some statistics of quarterbacks that I know people don't hold in high regard around the league.
Okay.
Jimmy G, Jared Goff,
Matty Ice.
I didn't look him up.
No, I think
Case Keenum.
he's underrated though. Matty Ice.
Case Keenum. Baker has almost identical career stats to these guys.
Yeah.
And those are guys that no Browns fan would want to bring in to be our quarterback. And they probably dog on Jared Goff. I know he's not getting any love. And if you look at the similarities in the careers between Goff and Baker, I mean, they're almost identical.
Yeah.
As far as they come in, they have a good season. I mean, Goff went all the way to a Super Bowl and the Rams still moved off of him. So I keep saying this on the show. The standard is not Baker needs to be better than the quarterbacks the Browns have had. He needs to be better than the other quarterbacks that are currently on contenders in the league right now.
Yeah. And I think another comparison is, who could we have had instead
Oh, don't do that game. Barry,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, brother, we don't got time
Okay.
for that, man.
All right. Got it.
I've done that for the last 20 years.
Well,
We don't, it's bad.
even his draft, we got 2 players that are lights out now. But yeah, I think that's a good barometer. Is he starting for any fantasies team? If he's not, then that shows what other fans are feeling.
No, I agree too. And I guess my biggest thing too is I think people really get on me when I say Baker hasn't lived up to my expectations right now. If the Browns were to let him go for free right now and any team could pick him up, maybe 4 or 5 teams give him a look.
I talked about that with a guy today. He was naming teams, and he was like, Carolina. I'm like, I'm not sure Carolina does that. They just got Darnold.
If I came up with the 4 or 5, I argued with somebody with this on YouTube. I said probably Carolina, maybe, because at least could bring him in to compete.
Yeah.
The Texans would probably take him until Tyrod comes back.
Yeah.
And then
Saints.
So I think the Saints would. I think they'd kick the tires.
Maybe.
I think Denver.
Maybe. But there's 32 teams, 25 of them probably aren't looking at Baker. And that's my problem with them.
Well, then what he needs to do is he needs to step up, and of course being injured is a different thing. It's hard to compete at a certain level when you have constant injuries. Josh Gordon, all those drug convictions, he could have been a great player. I don't know, a Hall of Fame career, but he could have been a great player, but he just kind of wasted his talent. Well, Baker, when you get hurt, you get hurt. And there's nothing you can do about that until you get healthy again and compete for that. But if they consider that he can compete this game with the injury that he has, or numb it, give him a shot, then we'll just see what he does. Apparently, the coaching staff thinks that that's our best opportunity to win.
Right.
No, and that's another thing too. I think some people on here have thought that I think we should go with Case over Baker. That's not what I'm saying. I think Baker is athletically definitely an upgrade over Case Keenum. Better arm, better mobility. I just think what they put on the field, the gap isn't as big as what it should be.
Yeah, Case can't throw it very far.
No, he can't.
My thing too is, so we saw a different Baker last year in the second half of the season. We talked about it all offseason. How
after OBJ went down.
Yeah, we were so excited coming into this year because we're like, oh, look at what he was able to do as soon as he got more integrated into that system, and they gelled better. And I mean, Baker was putting up touchdowns like crazy, yards. He took the interceptions way down to almost 0. I mean, it was what, 2 over those last however many games, and
Baltimore and the Odell pick.
And then this season starts, and it's like, where's the disconnect here?
Plus, he had a full off season. Then I heard that him and Stefanski holed up somewhere and watched film in their basement like forever.
So what's going on?
Expectations were so high for Baker that I don't know if you watched this episode or not. Josh's bold prediction for the year was that Baker would throw for 12,000 yards, 87 touchdowns, and win MVP.
I think I said he'd go over 4,000 yards and close to 40 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Just because of the pace he was on last year, I was like, if they come out and they're hitting it on the offensive side, passing like they were, sky's the limit.
And if you look at his receivers on paper, that looked good. That looked like that matched
I think
up.
That's where we all got hung up too, is we were like, oh, look at all the talent he's going to have to throw the ball to. And then the first couple games played out, we're like, maybe they're not that good.
I made this comparison last night after watching Green Bay go into Arizona and win. Green Bay was missing their top 3 wide receivers.
And they really only have a top 1. And then it's like maybe a 4 is your next one.
Scantling or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Lazard was also out.
Yeah.
So they went into the only undefeated team in the league, a team that just killed us.
Yeah.
At home. They went into their place on primetime football without their 3 best receivers and won. In almost the exact same situation. Last year, the Browns lost to the terrible Jets. So to me, that's kind of like the difference. Obviously, not everybody's Aaron Rodgers, but
that's what I said. That's a big difference, bro. That's,
you know what I mean?
The second best quarterback maybe of all time.
But you know what I'm saying? But that like
modern quarterback.
That's fair. That's
we
fair.
need. I'm not saying to bail. People on here are saying bail on. I'm saying to bail on him. I'm not saying to bail on him right now. I'm saying good teams and teams that go to the next level, they aggressively search for options.
because I think he's got a superior offensive line when they're healthy. When you put Wills, but you've also got to look at this. The Browns are not built to pass. They're built to run. When they got Wyatt Teller, he was a run blocker.
Mm-hmm.
When they got Jack Conklin, he was blocking for Derrick Henry. That's what he did. Wills was Alabama's right tackle. They were a running team. So you also, in all fairness, you got to look at the context and the formation of the team. They're built to run the ball. That's why somebody like OBJ, when we got OBJ, if you got a superior receiver, unless you're going to change your philosophy, unless you're going to change your whole structure, like when the Dolphins drafted Dan Marino, they were a running team. They had 3 great running backs. They pounded people. They changed their offense to fit Dan Marino. Well, we're not changing to fit Baker. We want Baker to change to fit us.
Right. I mean, that's exactly why Lamar Jackson is so great in Baltimore, is because they said, well, we're not going to make him play our system. We're going to change our system to fit him because he's only good in that type of system, but he's really, really good at it. You know, so they did it. And look how they're doing.
That's one more thing, too, that gets on my nerves lately is that some people are saying Stefanski's the problem. They need to let Baker unleash.
Unleash what?
We saw that. We literally saw that. He threw 20-plus interceptions. He borderline Jameis Winston season.
Yeah.
We saw Baker in that offense. We just praised this guy for putting Baker in a position to succeed last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not Stefanski's fault.
Well, I think I'm on the other end of it, man.
You are?
Yeah. I don't get me wrong. So I'm still on board, and we have him for another season next year.
Yeah, we got the 5th
his
year.
option.
Yeah.
Why not pick up
at low money?
Yeah.
Right. And then you can franchise him after that, right?
Let the guy get healthy. Browns fans, don't toss him out yet.
Yeah.
I literally watched the guy last year be lights out and everybody praise him.
Second half of the season.
Yes.
He was a great quarterback.
Yes.
I thought he was real good.
Statistically, he was like the 2nd best quarterback in the league.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Over those
I'm
last
just saying,
days.
I like, don't get me wrong, the
saying,
guy's
I know, but we're
his
all
arm falling off.
We're cherry picking 8 games to say how good we think he can be. Really good, because I'm looking at his career as a whole.
But we also, I don't know. Fair. Are you going to say his rookie year wasn't great? I mean, he played as far as a rookie year to that point. He had the best one ever.
He had a very good season for a rookie.
Yeah, he did.
But he did. It's not like he had an all-world season for a quarterback in the modern NFL. He threw for 3,600 yards. Huh?
Still has not made a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, he's a number 1 overall pick. I'm looking at his career as a whole, 50-plus games. So it's the good and the bad, and he has Case Keenum career numbers. Do we think Case Keenum is a franchise quarterback?
All I'm saying is, like, if you can't, at the end of the season, if you don't get Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson in some type of trade or something like that, then he's your guy.
No, and I agree. I'm not saying. I'm looking at, like, with the Rams. The Rams could have kept Goff and just kept making the playoffs.
Yeah, and kept paying him.
And they could have kept Goff and just kept. But the problem is, what's going to happen if we don't have the best offensive line in the league? What's going to happen if we don't have the best run game in the league? Baker is already, I mean, I can argue mediocre now. What's going to happen if we take away that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the Rams didn't just rest on their laurels and say, we got a good enough quarterback where we can be competitive for the next 6 years. No, they were aggressive. They identified a guy that they thought could take them to the next level, and they made it happen. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying get rid of Baker right now and play Case because Case is better. No, I'm saying explore your options. If you think there's a guy out there who takes you to the next level, then do what it takes to go get him.
One thing I will say between Baker and Jared Goff, to use that comparison and that argument, is Goff got to ride it with he was with McVay his whole time, right?
He was.
So
yeah.
No, he was with Jeff Fisher's first year.
Was that the first year?
And it was abysmal.
Okay, well, but then he had consistency after that with one of the greatest coaches, in the league right now.
Innovators.
Yeah, exactly. And Baker, this has popped up in the chat here a few times, I think, 4 head coaches, 2 GMs, 4 coordinators.
Yeah.
In his first 3 years.
Three quarterback coaches.
As a Cleveland Browns fan, I'm like, I at least owe this guy the rest of the season and next year.
Well, this was supposed to be it.
I know.
Exactly.
But here's the thing, though. His arm is
I'm not buying that either.
Messed up. You
No.
don't buy that?
No, because he had a great game against the Chargers. Did his arm just magically hurt less that week?
The Chiefs, he played well.
Yeah, he
Well,
wasn't.
he wasn't
hurt.
injured
Yeah,
then.
So
no.
a lot of people are saying he's injured now. One, if you're playing, then I'm holding you to the standard of
That's
playing.
fair. That's fair. I'll
Two,
give you that.
You played like crap against the Vikings because your shoulder was hurt.
Yeah.
Lit it up against the Chargers, and then nobody mentioned the shoulder, and then played like crap against the Cardinals, and his shoulder was hurt. His shoulder didn't magically get better for a week, and then all of a sudden get re-hurt.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it did against the Cardinals.
He was crap before his,
when it
but
he was completely mangled the other direction.
Yeah, but he was playing like crap before that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at the game.
So
it was awful.
yes, so the injury. I mean, come on. If you're playing, then I'm holding you to the standard.
Then
of
why don't you hold
playing.
Odell to the same standard?
I do hold him to that standard. He's got to play well.
But
Odell
used the shoulder injury as an excuse a couple times. though.
Odell can't throw the ball to himself.
He can catch it, or I'm sorry, he can't.
He has 2 drops on the year.
Of-
He has 2 drops on the year.
Oh, he's got 2 drops every game.
No,
Thank you.
Statistically, he has
Thank
2 drops.
Statistically, but we've seen plenty.
He's got
more.
2 drops, and he only has like a 45% catch rate. Yeah, because Baker throws the ball 10 yards too far, or he hits the DB in the back.
Yeah. Against the Chargers, he was wide open.
Yes, he doesn't
wide
throw
open downstairs.
Yes,
But that could have been an audible with the line where he thought he was going to curl out and he curled in instead. Who knows? Only Baker and OBJ know that.
So yeah, I'm not saying Odell is completely blameless, but no other team in the world where somebody's struggling, do they go blame? It's the offense runs through the quarterback.
Yeah, and the Chargers, he was horrible. He was abysmal. At the end of Brownies and Frownies, I always have a poll and I ask a question about something and give them usually 3 options. At the end of Brownies and Frownies, I said, what do you think the issues of Baker Mayfield are? And the first option was he played really bad. I didn't give any other options.
Oh,
That was it.
Yeah,
That was it.
I think, but I'm pretty sure against the Chargers, where he only had 2 targets, he was the PFF highest graded player on the team.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Hey, from my eyeballs, I don't see.
It's
that.
hard. It's you can't eyeball. He only had 2 targets. What are you eyeballing? The ball.
I'm eyeballing
camera's
our
on the
most
ball.
expensive receiver doing nothing on the field for multiple seasons.
Like I said, he can't throw the ball to himself.
He also can't catch it.
18 million. Is that what he's being
I think
paid?
it's 15.
15.3.
He can't throw.
Yeah.
He can't throw it to himself.
Well, Baker can't go out there and catch 4th down passes either that are wide open.
Again, he's got to catch those, but he should have. One, he wasn't wide open. The dude throwing 90-mile-per-hour
Was it the
fastball
Bears
on
game?
him
He
at
was
3
wide
yards.
open.
Yeah.
2, he should be getting like 12 targets a game. Against the
That's
Chargers,
not
he
a
has
Baker
2.
thing. That's a play calling thing.
It is a Baker thing because
Yeah.
he's not looking at him.
Baker barely throws 12 passes a game.
It seems like it. Certain games. Well, look, if you're going to say anybody should be lights out, it should be Rashad Higgins. That was his guy last year. Why isn't he getting targets?
And
Why
that's
isn't he getting
that's the
catches?
thing too. There's a common. None of our receivers are playing well.
No.
There's a common denominator.
I think Donovan Peoples-Jones had his breakout game, and then the next game he had 6 targets and 2 catches and maybe less than 20 yards. So it doesn't make any sense.
These Josh likes to tell me how bad Odell is, but he's missed 2 games and he's second on the team in receiving. So
yeah, but he's like 123rd in the
Yeah, I was gonna
league.
say, I don't know
yeah,
if that's a good
but that's
argument.
what I'm saying. So it's not an Odell thing. It's not like every other receiver on our team's lighting it up and then Odell is being awful.
Right.
Nobody in the pass game is playing well.
No.
There's one common denominator for that. It's the person who throws them the ball.
No, when
I
your
just
leading
think-
receiver is a tight end, you got an issue.
A tight end who honestly he doesn't even start.
Yeah, he doesn't start.
I just think we need a number 1 receiver on the team. That might make a difference. We just don't have one.
Okay.
I mean, OBJ is a good maybe 2nd or 3rd option on a team, but
Yeah.
You think OBJ is a 3rd option on a team?
if he's on some teams in the league, he would
If
be.
this team, if Odell
Tampa Bay?
leaves,
That the only one?
Well, against the Bears, he was the 4th leading receiver in the game. And that's just one game. He didn't even lead our team.
Not. We're not really built to throw the ball around
No,
either.
I've said that.
Yeah, we're
a running
We're a
team.
running team. Yeah.
the volume is so low that this season really does suck for this whole conversation because we can't evaluate accurately what's going on because of all the injuries and just the stuff going on.
But that's every team.
True, but not every team's got a quarterback who's like, should you miss the rest of the season? Should you not? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, at this point, at
Right.
the halfway point.
So
Right.
if he's playing, I'm evaluating him. If he doesn't want to evaluate it, then sit and let Case play.
I honestly think Case should at least play the Steelers game. I do.
I think at halftime they're going to evaluate him and put him on a short leash and decide at halftime.
I think that'd be a good strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So
I hope he just balls out, and then next week I don't want to hear anything about it. I don't want to hear
balls
who he
out
can
too.
trade
Listen,
for.
here's the thing. I want him to
about it.
I want him to ball out too.
Yeah.
But then I want him to ball out the next game, and the next game,
I agree
and
with
the
you, man.
next game,
No,
and the
I know.
next game,
It's very up and down. It's very roller coaster-ish.
which is another name for average.
Well, I think the whole thing stems from last part of last season. He was a very, very excellent quarterback. And then he had all this off season and he didn't have another playbook and another head coach. It was the first time that all of these coaches stayed and nothing changed. The offensive coordinator didn't leave. The quarterback coach didn't leave. The head coach didn't leave. So we had those expectations coming into the season that, hey, he had a great season. It was, had a good playoff run. We made the playoffs for the first time. We had a winning record. We won 11 games last year.
Absolutely.
We had a great season. We got in at the 6th playoff seed. We won a playoff game. We could have beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. Who knows? And so we had those expectations of all that leading into this. And now we're at the 8th game and we're saying, what's wrong with Baker Mayfield? Well, to me, he's hurt. Well, if you're hurt, you sit, you get well, but it's their team and they know, and it's their doctors. I mean, that's what they get paid for. That's what they go to school for.
Yeah, you could see the way he comes out, like you said, in the first half, and there could be an argument if, say, he's playing banged up and it shows, or he gets hit again, he has to come out. Put him on that 3-week IR so that he's definitely out for the next 3 games. Make him get healthy. You know what I mean? That's something the team could do. I think
The problem is he's not going to get healthy.
Yeah,
Well, that I know
it doesn't.
that
You could take him out for 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 10 weeks. If he doesn't get surgery, this is as good as he's going to be this year. So it's either play this week or just take the season off, because you're not getting any more healthy than you are right now unless you get the surgery.
Well, maybe it should be a more of a short passing game. Use the tight ends more. Maybe not some long hauls. Use the running game. We're gonna pound the ball Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna run a lot.
I agree with that. I don't want to see any long developing plays down the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like Blake says all the time, we don't have a deep passing game, so forget it.
Yeah.
and I don't know if we can.
Let's do the quick slants. Let's do the tight end. Like I love the tight end screens, the running.
Absolutely.
The running backs. We've got great players at the line of scrimmage. I mean, it's kind of a boring way to run an offense, but
It's exciting when you're there screaming.
I mean,
man.
the Steelers do it.
Yeah.
We talked about them. That's how they, they run through the air. So
Well, it's still whoever has the most points wins the game at the end, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's what we're looking for.
yep. And I really think this is a game we can definitely win.
We need to win it.
I do think it's a
We
must
can
win.
win it. I think this is kind of similar to the Denver game, honestly.
Here's the what do you think? How many times can we lose and still make the playoffs? Maybe 5.
AFC is not good this year.
That's why I
No,
argued with you
it's
so
not
much
good
about
this year.
that
No.
Chargers loss, that it was such a bad loss, because you lose those close games early in the season with all the teams that we're competing against, especially in our own division.
Yeah.
That sucks at the end of the year,
So
man.
we can maybe lose 5 or 6 and make the playoffs. 6 is
Well, especially with the Bengals being who they are this year.
yeah.
Now they're either for real or they're going to fold.
Yep.
But they
Right.
look good.
They look for real.
Their defensive front is phenomenal.
Yep.
So with Larry Ogunjobi,
Hendrickson, they added some.
Yeah.
Their defense, they added a lot of pieces. They were very sneaky.
the receivers are lights out.
Oh, it's
I don't
crazy.
know how we're going to cover them with our defensive backfield.
Well, do you have anything else from the first 7 games that you wanted to look at or talk about?
No, I just think the defense has just been a big disappointment.
Yeah.
And it's just been a roller coaster on there. We expected, big things out of like Anthony Walker, and
Yes.
he had a good game last week. The week before he didn't. He's been hurt, and defensive backfield is just the biggest disappointment to me. I thought the safety room was solved. I thought we had young guys coming in. We brought in veterans who were proven. It's not like Troy Hill. Troy Hill was a 6-year NFL veteran, but he only had one great year, and it was last year. That's not what John Johnson was. He's had a good career all the way across the board.
Right. Yeah.
And we brought him in. And same thing with Anthony Walker. The Colts didn't want to lose him, and they did. But it just hasn't formulated like that to where the defense is stout, and but the defensive front is good. You can't run against us.
No, we haven't yet to have a 100-yard rusher against
And that's
us.
a difference because in years
Yeah.
past it was, and you
Porous.
use the fantasy football thing as an example. Like it was, who's playing the Browns this week? Throw
Right.
them in your lineup because they're
Mhm.
going to get at least 100 yards, and hasn't happened this year. I mean, it's that is an impressive aspect of that defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's kind of the takeaways for against the Steelers and our takeaways on the first 7 games of the season. Before we move on, I want to remind you guys to check out Symbol, the stock market for sports. Head to symbol.com/dogs, DAWGS. Play the stock market for sports. Think the Robinhood app, whatever apps there are out there for stock market only, with cool things like sports teams, NFL teams, baseball teams, NBA teams. I think there's even college on there. The way it works is you jump on there, you buy stock in a certain team. So if you're a huge Browns fan, you buy stock in the Browns. As our stock goes up, that's how you make money. You also get an instant cash payout every week that we win. Another cool thing about Symbol is the free pick 3 leagues. You go to teammates in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, and then the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you hit join/create league. You're going to find the Dogs Podcast League. Join our league, and then you're going to pick 3 games against the spread every single week. Whoever has the most points at the end of the year is going to get a free Browns jersey, any player they want, provided by Symbol, completely free. So hop on there, symbol.com/dogs, DAWGS. Lastly, the one thing I got to remind you out, your deposit right now is 100% refundable up to $500.
$500 fully guaranteed.
Wow.
So if you've been on and you've just been doing the pick 3 and you haven't really paid much attention to the stock market portion of the website and you're interested, you can put up to $500 in, and for the first 90 days, it's 100% refundable. You put $500 in, $200, $100, you lose it all, or you're not making anything, you're not fun. Your wife finds out and she asks what you spent this money on. You need to get it back. All you do is you just let them know, and it's 100% refundable.
That's
so
unheard of.
Yeah, it's literally risk-free right now. So now's a great time to try it. Symbol.com/dogs, DAWGS. Make sure you check them out. So for you guys who don't know Barry as well as we do, he's big into history, football history. He wanted to talk a little bit today, some cool, interesting stuff. I think he has some background on the elf.
Yeah, I wanted to tell you about the origins of Brownie the Elf. I mean, we just accept it, and we just see it, and it's everywhere. Justin, you've got the year that
Absolutely.
the Browns started on
That's
your
right.
on your shirt there.
It only
on
took
your
me
jersey.
like 3 months to get it. So,
Yeah. The Browns started in 1946. It was going into World War II. A lot of teams, there were only 8 NFL teams, and a lot of NFL players ended up in the service. And plus people, guys that were seniors or underclassmen in college entered World War II that could have gone into the NFL. So when they came out of World War II, there were literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of men that either played in the NFL or could have played in the NFL. So there was another league started called the All-American Football Conference, and it had 8 teams in it. And one of them was awarded to a man named Mickey McBride, who was a Cleveland native that owned 2 taxi cab companies. At the same time, the NFL still had the Cleveland Rams. Cleveland Rams won the 1945 NFL championship, but the Cleveland AAFC team by Mickey McBride hired Paul Brown to be their head coach. Well, at the time, Paul Brown was the most famous sports-oriented person in the country. He had he had coached Ohio State, won a national championship. He coached Massillon High School. He was from Massillon. He won 6 high school championships, and everybody knew Paul Brown. Well, the Rams had wanted to leave Cleveland and go to Los Angeles for 2 years. The NFL owners wouldn't let them because of travel, because back then it was by train or bus. But in 1946, started air travel. So the NFL owners allowed the Rams to move to LA. Plus, with the new Cleveland team coming in, coached by Paul Brown, Rams didn't want any part of that. In fact, the Rams played at Citi Field, which housed 27,000. They didn't play at Muni Stadium. They only played in Muni Stadium when they played like the Giants or the Bears, where they could get 50, 60,000 people. So they didn't even use the Indian Stadium for their home games. The new Cleveland team right off rented that stadium. we're not playing in this small stadium. We're playing in this big stadium. So they were preparing for that. So now the Rams are gone. Mickey McBride ran a name the team contest, and what won was Panthers. So this team that we all pull for was going to be called the Cleveland Panthers. Well, there was another Cleveland Panthers team that played in the 19s and the 20s and the early 30s. And when that was announced in the paper, a man came forward and said, I own the trademarks to that, but I'll lease it to you. Well, Mickey McBride came from poor surroundings. He knew he could name his team anything he wanted to. So he said, nah, I'll pass. So they, in the meantime, people like us would go to practice, and we'd get around at work and we say, have you seen Paul Brown's team practice today? No, I'm going to see Paul Brown's team on Saturday. So everybody started calling it Paul Brown's team. So eventually McBride said to Paul Brown, let's name it the Browns. Coach Brown said no, then he relented. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
So that's how that got started. So they ended up being called the Cleveland Browns. Well, Mickey McBride wanted a symbol. Well, all teams had a symbol or a logo or a letter, like the Cleveland Indians have their certain kind of C, and it's different than the Cincinnati Reds, and it's different than the Chicago Cubs. And he wanted a symbol or a logo. Well, think about it. If you got a team called the Browns, what kind of symbol or logo would you conjure up? A picture of Paul Brown? Maybe something that came out of the oven with walnuts. I can tell you Steeler fans would think it's a big pile of dog poop. That'd be the logo. So he couldn't come up with a logo, but he knew of a character that is in English folklore called brownies. Now, brownies were invented in Northern England to convince children and servants to complete their chores. All throughout history, they've invented stuff like pixies and gnomes. Take, for instance, if you're in your wagon and you're traveling from point A to point B, and your wagon needs a couple of boards, and you're going across a bridge, and you stop and get out your crowbar and your hammer. Well, if you knew there was a big hairy ogre that lived under the bridge that was going to get out and just knock you around and have horse meat for supper, you continue on your journey and just bypass all that. So brownies were invented so that when Englanders gave their children chores, if they knew somebody that was hidden and invisible that only came out at night could watch them during the day, they were more inclined to do it. Or if they had help, they were more inclined to do it. So he came up with the brownie. Well, Paul Brown was in everything in the team. He coached Massillon in earlier in his career. If there was a stapler to be bought, if there was a chair to be bought, Paul Brown gave his approval on it. He hired and fired. The owners allowed him to do that. They wanted him to do that. He was the GM. He was the president. He owned 5% of the team. And he formed this team into his own image. He chose orange and brown as their colors. He chose what the helmets would look like. And so every aspect of it, well, Mickey McBride came up with this brownie figure from folklore. Well, when Paul Brown coached Massillon High School, they were called the Massillon Tigers. Their colors were orange and black. And that's where Paul Brown liked the color orange. And that's why the Browns have orange. Well, at some point when he won his first state championship, the school hired an artist named A.D. Small to do a nice plaque for him, state championships. And I think he was even national championships to commemorate and give Paul Brown this commemoration on this. Well, so Paul Brown knew an artist. He commissioned him to come up with a logo for Massillon High School that was a tiger running the ball named Obi. Have you seen Obi?
Oh, I know Obi. I'm married into Obi life stuff,
are
man.
you?
Oh yeah, I had to go to the parade last week.
Yeah. Do you know what Obi stands for?
My wife has told me, I want to say my wife has told me it before, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
O and B stands for orange and black.
Is everything. Orange and black is everything?
I don't know about is everything, but probably.
The IE at the end.
Yeah.
OBIE.
Yeah. But the OB stands for orange and black, which was their school colors.
Right.
Well, he got A.D. Small to draw this tiger image. Well, Paul Brown knew that. He knew this artist. So he contacted him, and so it was decided that they were going to use this Brownie folklore. He contacted A.D. Small. Well, Paul Brown, his last year of Massillon is when Obi became a mascot. I think it was 1940.
Mhm.
So what happened is he just gave A.D. Small this brownie creature, and Small made Obi into Brownie.
Very cool.
If you look at the logos, they're almost identical.
Mhm.
They're both wearing something on their head. They're both running. They both have the football in their left hand. They're both stiff arming. It's Brownie is Obi. So that's where that came from. Did you know that?
I did not.
I did not know that, and hopefully my wife isn't watching this because she'll be saying that to Blake every time she sees him.
I'm a Massillon football hater.
It's fun. It's very, very fun.
So now how Brownie got his official name. Okay. Brownie is a brownie. He's not an elf. Way back when, now we think of elves as Santa's helpers or the Keebler cookie, real soft and cuddly. But brownies originally were invented as mean, hateful. They'd put spells on people. They'd make your cattle sick. They'd make people sick in your house. Brownie is not an elf. Brownie is a brownie. I don't know at what point he became, but originally he was called Brownie Elf. But he's not an elf. It's not the Cleveland Elves, correct?
Right.
It's the Cleveland Browns.
So if anybody ever says, why do they use the elf as a logo for the Browns? We say, it's not an elf. He's a brownie.
He's a brownie. The very first advertisement was in Cleveland Plain Dealer 2 weeks before their first game against the Miami Seahawks, September 1946. It's got the picture of Brownie stiff arming, and the caption says, "The Brownies are coming." And it talks about Cleveland Municipal Stadium and et cetera. Their very first program shows Brownie, that same Brownie with a stiff arm. It's the exact one that was in the newspaper ad. And for the longest time, for the first 3 or 4 years, that was the only logo. Now, later they came up with pennants that showed Brownie as a quarterback throwing the ball, and then they would put him in position. The one that we see most generalized is there on the pennant there. Well, he's just standing there. But everything about him, his clothes, his belt buckle, his hat, his little cloth booties, all of that is from English folklore of what a brownie is, and not an elf. Elf looks completely different. Now, elves had pointed ears and folklore, but elves, brownies also had brown hair and dark kind of brownish skin. And the reason behind that is they had brown hair is because of the region they were from. In northern England, there weren't people with blonde hair. There weren't people with red hair. Everybody had brown hair, English people. So that's why they look that way. So now the creature has to have, so Mickey Bride now had a symbol. He had a brownie that he'd call. And of course, you can't have it look cuddly because this is football. You can't call a team the Marshmallows and you have your team the Marshmallows or the chocolate chip cookies. You got to make him look mean and hateful. But how he got his name was when Paul Brown lived in Massillon back in the day, and I can remember this as a kid, downtown of different cities, soft drink companies would pay sign painters and they would paint advertisements on the side of buildings all the time. Coca-Cola, 7-Up, Yoo-Hoo, you name it. All these soft drink companies on the side of a building in downtown Massillon was an advertisement for Brownie root beer.
Nice.
And with Brownie root beer, it's got the original bottles. Now we have a picture of what the Brownie root beer looks like today.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Somebody bought the recipe in 1995 and had been making this Brownie root beer since 1995, but the origins showed a brownie character with on the bottle, and it says Brownie. And on the bottle cap, it's got Brownie root beer and the picture of a brownie. Well, Paul Brown had his thumb on everything, and he controlled everything. He wanted to make sure that if we're going to have a character and we're going to have a logo, by God, I'm going to be part of it. And it's going to be because I said for it to be, because he lived in Massillon. In fact, when his first wife, Katie, passed away, she's buried in Massillon. When Paul Brown passed away in his 80s, his services were at St. Thomas in Massillon, and he's buried next to her. He went to Massillon Washington High School. He grew up in Massillon from like 4 or 5 and up. But he saw that Brownie root beer, and if you've got a Brownie character, name it Brownie. And that's what Paul Brown did.
Very cool. Very, very cool history.
That was awesome. I'm actually getting a lot of texts from people saying how much they're enjoying this. So thank you, Barry.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people in the chat are saying they like it. So awesome.
So,
I didn't know a lot of that
I'll
stuff.
say, is this root beer time?
It could be root beer.
It could be root beer time.
And I've got a part 2 to the Brownie story.
Okay, well,
while we're doing the root beer.
all right.
So you actually have Brownie root beer? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, you know I do. Barry might have hooked us up a little bit.
M. Night Shyamalan twist ending here going
Pass
on.
that around.
Now, did somebody bring an opener?
I did. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yay.
Oh, well played.
Yeah.
So where did you get this stuff? Because this is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
SodaEmporium.com.
So guys, if you guys want some of this Brownie root beer that Barry's been talking about, what was that website again?
SodaEmporium.com.
SodaEmporium.com. It's called Brownie Caramel Cream Root Beer.
Now I've got my brother off there, and we got Kyle. So that's got to be passed around too, right? Did you bring 6?
No, I did not bring 6.
No,
That was rude.
that's just
Wow.
rude.
I know, thoughtless.
This guy comes all the way up from Florida and you can't even bring him a root beer?
No, he's from Indianapolis.
Oh, okay. Oh,
He's all the way from Indianapolis, guys. Get the guy a root beer.
oh, he does have a root beer. Okay, good. So
I'm being totally stupid and thinking you guys meant, did I bring 6 bottle openers?
Oh, no, I meant 6 bottles of root beer.
There you go.
Open yours up and let's crank this.
Okay.
Yeah.
so what's this part 2?
Let's take a swig first. Do you want to make a toast?
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on real quick.
Yeah. Has this got alcohol in it? Are we about to get?
No, sir.
Oh, okay.
He needs
There you
the
go.
opener.
Oh,
Called
here.
Brownie Caramel Cream Root Beer since 1929.
Well, I already tried it, guys. It's pretty good. Make
What
sure
about
you
the
guys check this
toast?
out. Yeah.
All right.
To the Browns.
To the Brownies.
To the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, everybody. We got a little bit more to go. Get your questions in the chat. We're going to do a Q&A at the end of this.
Ooh, that's good.
We want to answer all your guys'
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely.
So make sure you guys get your questions in the chat. We already got some. I got them queued up whenever we're getting ready to go.
I'll tell you what, I have not had root beer. It's been a couple years, honestly. I'm not a big root beer drinker, but
Yeah.
man, that is good.
That's very
Yeah.
good.
And
Tastes
Soda
like-
Emporium is the only site that sells soft drinks that I have found that they got it.
it's very good.
Very
So
cool.
check this out, guys. And it could be good in any man cave if you guys got brown stuff down there.
So part 2 is when Art Modell bought the team in 1961, that he was the third ownership group. And up until that point, every ownership group that had the team let Paul Brown do whatever he wanted to. He hired and fired and just ran the team, and they didn't care. When Art Modell bought the team, Paul Brown owned 15% of the team at that point. He had already cashed out when McBride sold the company, and then he cashed out when this Modell, and there was a guy from New York. Modell was a secondary owner.
Odell's a curse word on this show.
Okay, okay, we'll call him that guy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so when that guy bought the team in 1961, the first thing that he did was he fired Browning. In fact, he is listed in the paper that said, my first rules of engagement that I'm going to do with the Brownies is to fire that effing elf.
Really?
Wow.
And he did. And from that point on until the Browns left for Baltimore in 1995, Brownie the Elf, the last we saw him was somewhere down the river under a tent.
Mm.
Jeez.
Just another reason to not like that guy, I guess. You know.
So when Lerner and Carmen Policy started the New Browns in 1999, they immediately put Brownie the Elf back on. In fact, I remember in 2003, their training camp ponchos that they wore on the sidelines in preseason had Brownie the Elf, and it was this one right here. There's a bunch of renditions of him, but that's probably the most famous. And if you notice,
or the one on the surfboard, right? Like on
on
his
the
shirts.
the Honolulu.
That's right.
That's right.
Yep.
Friends of the program.
Yep.
Yeah. Which I thought I was the only one supposed to wear Honolulu today. You kind of jumped on that.
Did you guys talk that out? So you guys
No, we didn't.
Nope, didn't. I knew we were talking Brownie though.
If you notice on Brownie though, his little booties, they're cleats on the bottom of them.
Yep.
And when you see him with the stiff arm, he's got one foot that's up, and it's like he's running real fast, and it's pretty prevalent.
Yep.
Nice.
So, but Modell hated him, or that guy hated him.
Well, we hate him. So, well, that was some Brownie the Elf history. I think we got a couple Barry idioms coming up, and then we're gonna do the Q&A. So make sure you guys get your questions in the chat so we can go through all of them. So what are some of your idioms here?
I only have one. I only have one per show.
All right, here we go.
So don't make me smarter than I look. The one I'm going to give you today, and there's lots of things in football that have nothing to do with football. Gridiron is for cooking. Sack is to put something in. Hail Mary is a Catholic prayer. On and on. It's just everywhere. Pistol, shotgun. What I'm going to give you today is tailgating.
Oh, nice.
Right up my alley, brother.
We have all tailgated. We have all gone to other places and tailgated. I have been with people that have traveled that have stuff in their vehicles that don't take it out all season. How tailgating got started was the Green Bay Packers began in 1919. The NFL started in 1920, but the Packers didn't join. And the NFL started as the American Professional Football Association. 1922, they became the NFL. But for the first 2 years, they were the APFA. The Packers started as a company team. So we all work for this meat packing company. And like if we joined a softball team, that's how the Packers started. So the Indian Packing Company was out of Delaware, and they had 6 plants that put meat into cans, and one of the plants was in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The name of the meats was Council Meats. And you'd go to a grocery store just like now, and you buy a certain kind of pork and beans or cheese. You could buy different meat products. And the company wanted to raise morale and have camaraderie against their factory workers. So they wanted to start a football team because a lot of these players, or a lot of these plant workers, had played college football. And they approached Curly Lambeau, who was a department manager. He had played at Notre Dame for a season. He had played a lot of baseball. They approached Lambeau to start this team, and they did. Well, the Indian Packing Company paid for the uniforms, paid for the equipment, and right outside the plant was just this big open field. And they donated that for practices, which also became their playing field, their game field. So the first year, factory workers, there was no admission, there was no gate, there was no ropes, there wasn't anything. Factory workers would come out and see their co-workers and their friends, and then more and more people from the town started coming because Green Bay was small. Green Bay is real small. It's only 600,000 even today. So it started getting more and more. Well, in 1919, when people would show up, they would line the field, they'd line the sidelines, and they'd line the back of the end zone, and that's how they would watch it. Well, as more people showed up, now it's not people standing on the sideline. Now it's not 3 deep. Now it's not 6 deep. Now it's 12 deep. So the second season in 1920, they were an independent team and playing NFL teams and other independent teams regionally, from Pittsburgh all the way to Indiana and Chicago and Illinois. What people started doing was bringing their wagons and their pickup trucks. So we all live in the same block and we've all got cars, but Justin has a pickup truck. So we go with him. They'd bring their trucks in there and back them up in wagons and lay the bed down on the tailgate down. And now we've got a second level of sight.
Very nice.
And so Justin's pickup truck can hold 15. So we're not competing with these 12 or 15 that are standing in front of us that are along the sideline. Now we're at a second level because there weren't any bleachers. There weren't any bleachers at all. So these people started doing this. Well, being a Bible Belt city, what people started doing is games were 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, always on Sundays, because one thing about pro football is they have never stepped on the toes of college football on Saturday or high school football on Friday. If you notice any Saturday games that happen in the NFL, they happen after the Saturday games are abandoned for students to do finals and stuff. So what people started doing was taking prepared food to church. And once they got out of church, they'd already have their food cooked and ready. Then they would show up at the game, back theirs in. Well, Josh's wife, she makes the best potato salad in town.
She does.
Yes,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
potato salad is delicious.
And Blake can cook a mean, ham or, whatever.
I'm
So
vegan.
Hot dogs
Oh, I got you.
in the microwave.
Yeah. So people started bringing stuff to where you don't have 7 potato salads and you don't have to bring the whole meal. You bring something, you bring something, you bring something. We're at one truck anyway. We're at one wagon anyway. And so they started bringing their own food that was already prepared, and now they can see the game. And I don't know when it actually officially became known as tailgating, but it is because of tailgates of trucks and wagons that is known.
Well, that's awesome. More good
That's
stuff.
very cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. I did not
Take
know
that
that.
to the Muni lot next time.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, while we're finishing up enjoying this root beer, we got actually a decent amount of questions coming in. We're going to get to as many, keep them coming. We'll get to as many as we can, or until we get through all of them. We can't be here forever, but we will get through as many of these as we can.
Or until the root beer goes dry.
Yeah.
Right.
So the first question came from our friend DF Sports, and he asked, where do you think we need to go in the receiver room? Do we need to, before the trade deadline? I know Deshaun Jackson is out there. Possibly he wants out of LA. Do you think we need to do anything in the receiver room?
Yeah, I just did an article of 5 daring moves the Browns could do before the trade deadline. It's November the 2nd, 4 p.m. Eastern time. I put we should trade Odell to the Raiders and try to get Cleveland Farrell. That would give us another rotation. He's not playing. He's been a bust there. A lot of times it's just the system there. Well, Odell is a bust for us. He hasn't had any kind of numbers for him. They only have Henry Ruggs. So that would give them a second receiver. And Ruggs being a rookie, that would give them a veteran second receiver that's been there, that's done that. But, I think what they're going to end up doing, I think they're just going to leave it as it is and just do whatever it takes. I just wish they'd get DPJ more involved in it.
Well, he's out again. You said, Justin.
He's
this
out
week,
for the game this week for
that hamstring.
groin. Yeah.
Oh, groin.
It's a groin. Yeah.
That's 2 games in a row now. I mean, and with those growing injuries, you never know when they're going to come back. So that means
That and hamstring.
Yes, exactly. And he can be limited by that the rest of the season now. So that really, cripples us with Jarvis has already dealt with injuries. He's still a little banged up. I know he's going to play.
Yeah.
But, he hobbled off the field. OBJ's got the shoulder injury. We're depleted.
I don't think that I agree with you, Barry. I don't think anything happens this year, but I think one of those guys are going to be gone between Jarvis and OBJ. I just don't see both of those guys being there next year. And I think it's just more of I think it'll be OBJ that gets traded or whatever happens, but I think it's just more of a salary.
Well, the problem with
kind of
OBJ
thing.
is it's a buy high, sell low scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, we traded basically 2 firsts. With Jabril Peppers was a first. Right now, what would you get for him? A 4th?
If we're lucky.
Yeah.
That's why I'm on team keep him.
Yeah, I'm on team keep him too.
Because you're not going to get anything in return, at least I guess in his numbers, it would maybe be equal value, but I don't know. I just know that there's potential there, and I don't like to give up on it, even though I'm giving up on other people.
Yeah, we noticed, bro.
I'm glad you
I
walked
took
that
a
one
week
around.
off and you're gone.
I haven't
Just
given
left
up,
again.
but okay. So then Andrew Jackson, out of the Patreon, he asks, what's your bold prediction for the offseason? Does he think someone of significance will be traded or released that he didn't think would be at the beginning of the season?
Well, I believe that you got to start with the defense.
Mhm.
And I believe that you got to look at defenders. But even if you've got key people like Shaq Barrett out of Tampa, I thought for sure the Browns would go after him. But he took less money to stay where he is. So you really don't know what people are thinking. I have seen people take less money for what it is, but you've got to start with the defense. I'd like to see them go after, say, Marcus May of the Jets, the safety. He's the best. I think he's the best safety in the game. He is lights out as far as hitting. He's on a 1-year deal for 10 point something million. That's what I would see right there is it, because at first it looked like the safety room was fixed, but I don't think it's fixed now. Do any of y'all?
No, but to me, in my opinion, which I know, I haven't broken down film. I'm not privy to that. I don't think it's the players on our defense. I think it's the person calling the plays for the defense is the problem.
Okay.
So at least that's my opinion on it. But, I've been wrong before.
So Marcus May, the safety of the Jets, bring him in, cure the room, pair him with John Johnson. I don't know what they're going to do with Delp, but they'll probably be patient with him. I wouldn't be. I'd cut ties with him right now. I've seen him be juked way too many times.
Somebody said, are we surprised that he's still healthy? And I thought, well, it's because he keeps missing tackles, so
Yeah.
he's not getting hit.
Missing tackles badly.
Yeah. So James Day wants to know who's the best team in the AFC this year. And he said besides the Browns.
Oh,
Me personally, I like the Ravens. I do. I know Buffalo looks like the best team, and
Yeah,
I know
that's
the
right.
Chargers look like the best team, but I don't know how to start Lamar. I don't know how to stop him at all. I saw him against the Colts, and that pocket collapsed numerous times, and here comes Jackson.
Yeah.
And once he's out, and you better have somebody that's got this. It's not whether they can tackle or not. Can you match up the speed with him?
Yep.
I mean, the dude can fly.
I've never seen somebody who he'll have 2 or sometimes even 3 defenders kind of, converging in on him.
Mhm.
And he doesn't like break a tackle. He doesn't all of a
Right.
sudden get real fast. He just kind of simply steps right in
Right,
between them.
right.
And then next thing
makes
you
a
know, he's
stop.
gone. And it's like,
Yeah.
how did he do that? I mean, he just does it like it's nothing.
Yeah. To me, I think the Ravens are the best team in the league. I think they're going to
The whole
win.
league.
No, in the
Okay,
AFC.
all right,
Excuse me. Let me bring that back. I think they're the best team. The Bills on paper look like it. Before the season, I would have said the Chiefs. In fact, I would never, ever,
Yeah.
ever. We do a tally out. We do predictions every week, and I've never bet against the Chiefs. Every game that they play, I just do Chiefs all the way.
Yeah.
Now, I'm 4-3 or 3-4, whatever
Right.
they are.
Right.
Is what I am against them. But I like the Ravens. They've got. How many running backs do they have? They have like
all of them.
yeah.
This is the next guy up.
As long as they're over 29 years old, they're on their team.
Yep.
So, real quick, just as a side note onto that, who would your Super Bowl prediction be at this point?
Oh, Ravens.
Is Brady going back?
Ravens, Tampa, Ravens, Rams.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like the Rams there.
Yeah, I don't think the Cardinals are going to be sustainable.
I don't think so.
I think that they'll make the playoffs, but you got to look at their division also. The Seahawks have faltered. Yes, Russell Wilson is gotten hurt, but they were faltering even before that.
Uh-huh.
That division is just tough. It's like the Browns division, the AFC North. You've got 4 good teams that's going to fight each other out. It's like the SEC in football. Yes, they're not going to get 2 teams in the playoff because they beat each other up and they knock each other off. Well, that's what the AFC North is going to be, and that's what the NFC West is going to be.
Yeah.
Ravens, Rams will be good.
I think Rams are there. I like Buffalo, man. Their defense.
Now Buffalo's good.
Their defense.
I think you could flip
insane.
a coin on that.
Yeah. I think their defense is arguably better than their offense.
And they
which
got
is
a
insane.
defensive coach.
Yes. Yep.
All right, we got a couple more here. Gage Tucker wants to know, based on what we've seen so far, where would you go in next year's draft? He says the guy on the top of his draft board is Jordan Davis, D tackle out of Georgia. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would definitely go D-line. You can't have too many defense pass rushers. You can't. And realistically, Jadeveon Clowney's on a 1-year deal. Pat McKinley's on a 1-year deal. That kind of depends on not only how they play, but who's going to offer them money in the interim. We could say, yes, we want Pat McKinley to come back, but it doesn't mean he's going to sign because he's only on a 1-year deal. But you always cannot have too many corners, too many pass rushers on the roster. I would definitely pair somebody. Last year, I wanted to pair somebody with Myles Garrett. I had them first round as one of my 3 choices, taking somebody who's doing real well for the Ravens, Owa.
Yeah.
And that's what I would do. I would go D-line.
Okay. Just Me wants to know, with such a talented young running back room, where could you see Hunt or Johnson being traded in the offseason?
Yeah, one of my 5 daring moves, and you don't have to agree with this, okay? And a lot of times you write something to spark conversation, but I had us trading, now that Dearness Johnson has kind of come to the forefront, right? All right, he's making $850,000. Hunt is making $5-6 million a year, and then we got Chubb. You're not going to get rid of Chubb,
Right.
Are we all in agreement on that?
Absolutely. He's the heart of the team.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
So what are you going to do? Just sit Johnson? You're just going to put him on the bench and just say, okay, come in here and give Chubb a blow. And so you've got 3, to me, thoroughbreds, and I would trade Kareem Hunt, and I would trade him to the Miami Dolphins for their cornerback that didn't want to be there, Howard.
Xavier
Oh,
Howard.
yep.
I would do that trade right now.
And you think about
that
it.
is crazy to say with how Kareem has been playing and how important our run game is, but
Xavier
that's-
Howard is a lockdown top 5 guy.
So
Yeah.
that was one of my 5 daring moves, is let's trade. They have a running back that's not good, and they need a running back. Well, Hunt is used to being the number 1 guy. Remember back in the day when Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith and Eric Dickerson, there was one guy. Hunt was that guy for the Chiefs.
Yep.
His rookie year, he was not only led the NFL in rushing, but the first 10 games of his sophomore year, he was the leading rusher before he got suspended, then got waived because of that video. So for a year and a half, he was the number 1 guy. Well, he's second fiddle now. He doesn't get near the carries. He would welcome being a stud horse. And if we could get a starting caliber cornerback, which, if you think about it, Newsom's not playing well because he's a rookie. Denzel Ward, he's a roller coaster. That would plug and play right there.
Nope, I agree. And I don't want to get rid of Hunt because he's one of my favorite players. But if you put your GM cap on, you realize you don't need 3 running backs like that.
No, and if you think about it, they're not going to get rid of Chubb. So who has the most value between Hunt and Johnson?
It's Hunt.
Right.
So that's what you're going to get the most for.
So if Johnson can come in and fill Hunt's void and fill the backup role to Chubb, and Hunt has value, Johnson doesn't have value. Johnson has 1 game value. He doesn't have sustainable value, but Hunt has value. Now, I like Hunt. I think he's second, third on the team receiving. He is a great receiver, and he's so much different than Chubb. He's more of an electric guy,
Violent.
That's
a slashing runner.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas Chubb is just the same old plow over you, but once Chubb hits the corner, he's just steadfast like a workhorse. But Hunt has value. Johnson doesn't. Are you just going to stick Johnson on the bench now? He can come in and fill that void to be either the secondary or to be the starting running back. He looked like a starting running back to me the other day.
Absolutely.
And why didn't he win AFC Offensive Player of the Week?
I don't know.
Jamar Chase.
Oh,
Well,
well, That his line was
No.
what,
Yeah.
200 yards?
No, shut up.
2 touchdowns.
I saw Dearness was like the FedEx ground player. Of the
I did
Yeah,
see that.
yeah.
Yeah, Cleveland
Oh,
did put that up.
I see.
Okay, so a couple more here. I had a couple people ask about like OBJ. We'll kind of combine them all. They just want to know why you think OBJ hasn't really clicked and worked in Cleveland. Do you think he wants to be here?
And I will say, if you want to throw in a little bit, because you covered him in New York, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, maybe use some of that too, because I'm interested to hear about that.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a culmination of reasons. I don't think Baker Mayfield is this 55 passes per game quarterback. If the Browns change their offense to just throwing the ball the majority of the time, Baker couldn't do that. Do you agree?
I completely agree.
Okay. So that's number one. You don't have a passing quarterback. I think Baker is more of a game management quarterback. I think he can pull games out. He did against the Bengals last year with that last second pass. He has brought many in position to win at the end. I don't think he's just a game manager like they say Case Keenum is.
Right.
So he needs to be in an offense that can throw the ball. Well, Eli Manning was a thrower. I don't think he has the speed that he has, and it might be because of this injury that he came back from. I don't know. But I also know that he doesn't get separation like he used to. When he was with the Giants, he would do his routes seemed to be crisper, his fakes seemed to be better. Now guys are just waiting for him to make his fake and not taking either one, and then following him wherever he ends up. And he just doesn't have that separation. If you notice, when he catches the ball, there's usually a guy right on him. Well, with the football giants, it wasn't that way. He was 5, 6, 7 yards. And then where he made a name for himself was the yards after the catch. He was gone.
Mhm.
Most of the time he had good angles. He knew how to take good angles. And he just hasn't done that with the Browns. He just doesn't seem to have the separation. I don't think the Browns are interested in him getting 160 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game. I don't think they have any interest in that at all. I think they have interest in Hunt getting 163 yards and 3 touchdowns. But any receiver, if they get over 100 yards, it's like, okay, whatever. Good game, dude. Here's the game ball.
Yeah, you're right, because you definitely don't see that.
Now, if you take OBJ and trade him to a team that passes the ball, I think he'd flourish.
I think, like you said, if we traded him to the Raiders, he'd dominate.
Well, especially because they've got a deep threat with Henry Ruggs that can take the top off the defense. And you have to respect a guy like Henry Ruggs is by no means this well-polished veteran receiver. You know, he's
young and fast.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And he was a first-round pick for a reason. I mean, he's still talented. So that would be a good spot for OBJ to come in and be, like you said, that veteran presence.
Right.
For that receiving room. Otherwise, they really don't have any vets out there in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think that OBJ is a round piece in a square hell. I think he just needs to go somewhere that's going to toss the ball a lot.
And I think maybe
what would OBJ be like in Dallas?
Yeah. Well, I guess we talk about like the head coaching changes and stuff and the coordinator and the schemes and all this stuff and how much it's changed for Baker. But I mean, Odell came in here his first year and it was with Freddie, which was a joke and a circus and all that stuff. And then he transitioned the next year is a whole new system, whole new coaching staff. And all of a sudden it's a run focused offense. So I think there's that plays into that for him too.
No, 100%. If we give Baker, leeway because he's had to go through different coaches and coordinate. Well, so is all of our receivers.
Yeah.
They all had to learn new offenses and made that transition, stuff like that.
All right, let me ask you one question. Point to one thing on this offense that says we're a passing team.
Nothing.
All that. I mean, if you look at our roster on paper, you could say this is a passing team because there's legit weapons. I mean, Jarvis is a nice weapon. OBJ is a nice weapon, but that's
if you're looking at the names on the paper,
that's kind of where, I mean, philosophy wise,
David and Njoku's that deep tight end. He down the seams kind of tight end, and I mean, but when you watch the games,
but nothing. you can point to this team and say that's a running team.
Yeah.
All five
Absolutely.
offensive linemen,
Yeah.
most of them, other than J.C. Treader, Bidonio, they're all kind of subpar in pass blocking, but they're all great run blockers. Every single one of them. Austin Hooper is a good blocker. Nuyoshu, he found out to be a good blocker. You can look at this team and say, this is made to run, but you can't look at it and say, okay, this is what we're doing. Austin Hooper came as a receiving tight end. That would be my only thing that I can say, this is what they did to make this a passing team. And OBJ is just out of place.
Yeah, the Austin Hooper trade still doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because we paid him all that money and they just don't use him.
No.
We thought they would.
Yeah.
You know, bringing a guy like that in on that kind of a contract.
Well, David's making $6 million. He's Hooper's making $8 million. They're paying over almost $15 million in one position that has little production.
We really thought that tight end position was going to be more prominent in the passing game. Yeah.
Harrison Bryant, Mackey Award winner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stephen Carlson had his moments. Who's a good blocker?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought up Harrison Bryant because that was a draft pick last year that we were really excited about, knowing what he was able to do in college. And we just went out and got another great pass catching tight end and don't use him.
No. So before we get out of here, I got to address one. Dave V in the comment section is just lighting us
blowing it up, man,
because of this Kareem Hunt thing. First of all, nobody's saying Kareem Hunt isn't good and he isn't valuable.
No.
The problem is you can only play. There's only one football on the field, and you're not going to keep all three. So what are you going to do? Are you going to let Dearness Johnson go for nothing? Whenever obviously there's a drop off between Kareem Hunt and Dearness Johnson. We're not saying that. We're saying that Dearness Johnson can fill the void of a backup running back. So then you use Kareem Hunt to better your team in a position. It does no good to have 3 stud running backs when you're only going to use 1.5 to 2 of them. It makes no sense. 2, he says Dearness Johnson has had one good game this year. We also saw him tear up last year against Dallas.
We got that.
Yes. When nobody is saying Dearness Johnson is Kareem Hunt, but you have to think about it from a GM point of view. If you have pieces on your team and you have a ton of depth, you have to use some of that depth to strengthen other parts of the team.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate, but like you said, it's a business. You got to put your GM cap on. And I mean, when you're bringing in a position to spell a guy, you know what I mean? Chubb's your guy.
Yeah.
Right.
So whoever's coming in is coming in to spell him. He's not coming in to be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now I love Kareem Hunt
or replace.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and then he also said if Baker had reliable weapons, he'd be top 5. Come on, dude.
Well, Drew Bledsoe was an all-star, a Pro Bowl player at least 3 times. He got hurt, and Tom Brady went from number 4 to number 3. And then when Drew Bledsoe got hurt, Tom Brady came in, and then it was lights out from then on out. That could happen with Dearness Johnson. He got his opportunity, and what did he do with it? He produced.
Right.
He came to the forefront and said, look, I can run the ball too. Look at me.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember too, like this started because you said it was your bold moves that the Browns could make. And that would be a bold move. We're not saying, oh yeah, sure, just, willy-nilly trade Kareem Hunt, no big deal. Like that's a bold move. I mean, that takes some cojones. Like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to move one of our best players, for value. But as a GM, I mean, I see what you mean. Like it's a very bold move, but it could be something.
And even if they didn't trade him for Howard, I would still put Kareem Hunt in that trade mode because he has value and he's got good value.
Yes, like Dave said, Kareem is not a backup; he's a starter. Exactly.
That's true.
Which is why he's the one on the trade block because you're not going to get anything for Johnson.
Is he a starter on the Browns?
No.
Will he ever be a starter in the Browns?
No.
And even when,
that's it.
Well, last year when Chubb went down for several games, Hunt didn't have lights out games.
No, his production declined.
It did.
Yeah,
it did. And I was expecting big things from
we all
him.
were. Yep.
Yeah. And so I don't know.
The thing is, they're just such a good 1-2 punch. They
Right,
really are.
And they're different.
Yes.
I agree. And Hunt's a phenomenal player. He is a phenomenal pass receiver. And he's a good blocker in the backfield too.
But one thing to keep in mind too is I believe he's 26 years old, and I know he's still really good. But these running backs, we see them drop off once they hit 26, 27, 28. Like it just falls off. So if he's got value now, and you can get a young elite shutdown cornerback or some sort of defensive piece that we could really use. I mean, come on, we could really use it.
And here's the thing too is yes, I love Kareem Hunt, but in the universe of what's valuable to a football team, running back is towards the bottom of that list.
And especially on our team, because I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Johnson, but I feel like you get any kind of decent runner and put him behind that line, he's going to pick up 5 yards of carry. I mean, that's just what happens in this offense.
Well, look at what happened with Dearness Johnson. He didn't even have the starting 5 out there.
Nope.
I mean, he was running behind Blake Hance.
Yeah.
Which was opening holes.
Yeah, and like I said too on the show, I mean, Johnson was getting a lot of yards too, after contact on his own, which was awesome. So
he was dragging players.
Yeah. So, any more we want to go through here?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I could sit here and argue with Dave all day, but I'll just save that for you.
Save it for the comments.
Dave, I'm with you, brother. I'm still on board, man.
All I'm saying
Baker
about
Mayfield.
Kareem Hunt is he's got value. Now Chubb's got value, and you could trade Chubb too.
Yeah,
but they're not, and I wouldn't, and nobody would.
Correct.
So you can't keep 3, and you can't keep if you're just going to have a great running back. If you're going to trade for Emmitt Smith and put him on the bench, why did you trade for him? If we have Dearness Johnson, and he's proven that he can do this, then take something that you got tradable value for, get something that you need more, a safety, maybe a receiver, a cornerback.
The cornerback thing with Denzel Ward's injury now, like, that's worrisome because he wasn't playing as well as we thought he could anyway. So, yeah, we could probably use that right now.
Oh. So, again,
that was my move.
This is we're thinking from the standpoint, not as fans right now. It's you have to sometimes make tough decisions to better your football team. It's not always the fan favorite just gets to stay.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not the way it works.
Well, that's also how you do when you predict games. You don't predict games with your heart. You predict games as if you are being forced to bet money on the game. So if you've got the Browns versus, say, the Ravens, their first, at Baltimore, if you were forced to bet $1,000, who would you pick?
Ravens.
If you were forced to bet $10,000 or $100,000, that's how you have to predict games. And that's what you have to do with your roster here. We've got 3 good running backs. We're only going to play 1. Well, we don't even play the fullbacks that we have half the time. So why keep 3 if you've got 3 and 2 of them have great value? One's got minimal value where you're forced to keep him. If you trade Dearness Johnson, what would you get for him? A 7th rounder?
Yeah, maybe.
But Hunt, you could get something for him. Well, if we've got problems on the defense or need a receiver or whatever it is, bring him in. That's all I'm saying.
No, I agree. Okay, well, we've kind of been going now for a long time, so we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up. PK.
Root beer's almost gone.
Yeah, this is you got a little. Well, there's a lot to get to today, though. You don't have people from Florida up all the time, so we wanted to make sure we got through everything.
But do you want to let everybody know, Barry, like where they can find you, find your stuff?
Dogsbynature.com. We're part of SB Nation. SB Nation is the 3rd largest sports online site behind ESPN and Bleacher Report.
Nice.
And just like Bleacher Report and ESPN, if you're a fan of any team, of any league, soccer, international soccer, NHL, NBA, NFL, they've got a fan site, and Dogs by Nature covers the Browns. We've also got Dogs by Nature at Twitter. My Twitter is at Barry_Shuck, capital S. And I'll follow you.
Awesome. Well, hey, we want to thank Barry for being here today. It wasn't a quick drive. Weather's way worse here. So we're happy Barry could be here with us. He brought us the root beer. He brought us a ton of cool knowledge. I think you guys all enjoyed it. We had a good amount of people in here the whole time. The comment section was awesome. So we appreciate the feedback. It was better with your guys' feedback. Happy we could do an extra episode for you guys going into the Steelers game. It's a big matchup. I think we all kind of agree, almost a must-win to keep the playoff hopes alive and keep the AFC North title alive. So we'll see you guys back here on Monday when we get back to our normal routine. Thanks for being with us, and have a good night.